Well, hello. Welcome to episode 9 of In Progress.
Hello.
Got a couple of wicked guests with me here. I've got the big dog, Michael Tan, and the even bigger dog, Michaela Napoli.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Why don't you just tell us a couple of sentences about yourselves, introduce yourselves to the good people.
Sure, you want us?
You go first.
Okay, cool. Hey everyone. I'm Michael. I am in YA. I'm 24 years old. I had to think about that. But yeah, I lead the year 12s in Durox Youth, and I've been in Durox for coming to 14 years actually, I think.
Dang.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good innings.
Mm.
Yeah,
How
very
about
cool.
you, Michaela?
I'm Michaela. I am 30. I'm a lot older than 24. And I've been attending the Rocks since 2017. I used to be a YA leader, but I'm a bit too old for that now. So now I am a small group leader. But that's me. I'm also on the board.
Yeah. That's why she's an even bigger dog.
I see.
Yeah, she's
I
kind
can
of
see
like,
that.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah. You know, the big stamp of approval and all that stuff. Now, you guys are here because we're talking today faith in the workplace in general. The reason I got you is because I don't think it's any secret, but you guys are a couple of big dogs in the corporate world. So you are like, I've heard you on calls. You say words and I'm like, whatever it is that he's selling, those guys are buying it. What do you actually do? What is your job?
So my official title is Senior Data Analyst.
Oh,
So I'm not in sales.
That's a big dog though, right?
No, I don't think so. I still feel junior, even though there's senior in my name. But I do data analytics just across all the life cycles, data life cycle, from the warehousing and the ingestion of data all the way to the analytics and sometimes even the distribution of deliverables to clients to try and just help them out and help them make money.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Not a salesman though. Not a salesman.
Not a
Shit,
salesman.
help, man. I don't know. And Michaela, you are a lawyer.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a prosecutor.
Oh,
So I work for the government.
Yeah, very
I'm on the
important
good
difference.
side.
On the good
I'm not defending the criminals. But yeah, I've worked in government my whole professional life. I've worked at the Australian Taxation Office, and then now I'm a federal prosecutor. So I work for the Commonwealth Government. And yeah, my job is every day is different. I can't really share too much about what I do. It's very confidential, but I find a lot of value in what I do. I get to interact with victims of crime and get justice for them, and it's really fulfilling.
Yeah.
Love my job.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is it's not like you guys are like stacking shelves of Woolies. Like you're working on some big stuff. Within your working life, okay, what is the weirdest thing that has happened? Like when you think, wow, that was a weird day at work. Have you got anything that comes to mind?
It's every day for me.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Yeah, the cases you get.
Where do I start? We have some very crazy people. So we handle a lot of arrests. So when people get arrested, we have to go down to court, and just sitting in that courtroom and watching people defend themselves is always, it's a laugh. It's always funny. But I will backtrack on what you said. And I just want to say to everyone listening, if you are at Woolworths stacking shelves, your work matters.
That's a big dog.
Yeah, you are a big dog.
You're right. Call me out, Matt. Call me out.
Yeah.
Lay it on even thicker. Okay. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. And actually leads me very neatly to my first thing I want to talk about, which is the idea of like work as a calling rather than just like a job. What's your guys' thoughts on this concept? You ever thought about it?
Yeah, for sure. I think people always kind of really focus on that, like, oh, what does God want for me? What does God call me to do? I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to go down a path that God never intended me to go down and ruin my life and not fulfill his plan. And I think work is definitely a big part of that, right? Mm-hmm. Especially for like, I remember being in uni and thinking, am I doing the right degree? Being in high school even thinking, oh, am I studying the right subjects in order to do the right thing in uni in order to get the right job that will, help me fulfill God's calling for my life? So yeah, I think definitely it's a common struggle for everyone, not even just in the corporate world. I think in any industry. Yeah. What do you think?
I always am reminded of the story of creation.
Ooh.
And I think that, so when God created the universe, he created man, and he didn't tell Adam, go and sit under a tree and have a good life. See you later.
Yeah.
He immediately put him to work. He told him, I need you to tend and care for the garden. I need you to name all the animals. And that is our God. He sees value in putting us to work.
Very good.
When we die, when we go to heaven, we're not going to be all floating around on clouds playing harps. And I don't know about you guys, but I think that sounds like the boringest thing on the planet to do for
Sounds
eternity.
probably closer to hell. To tell you the whole
Yes,
truth.
me too. No musical talent
eternity.
for eternity, never ending. We're going to have jobs. God has a purpose and a calling for each of us.
Yep.
And I also think that God has given each of us unique gifts and talents. So Alistair, Mike, you have very different gifts and talents to me.
True.
And God finds pleasure in watching us use them.
Ooh.
And one way that we can use that is in our work.
Very
and
good.
so, yeah, that's my take on it. I think that God sees work as a privilege, not a punishment. And in society where I know for me, I'm constantly refreshing my superannuation app to see how soon I can retire. But God sees value in our work, and he sees it as a privilege. It's not a punishment. We're not working because Adam and Eve sinned. We're working because that was God's original intention and purpose for us.
Very good. And it's actually rewarding, right?
Because it is, yeah.
I think it changes your approach to it. Rather than like, oh my gosh, I've got to get through another 8 hours. It's like, oh no, I'm doing something with what God has given me. Like, let's talk about yours, Mike, because like senior data analyst, that's not something I would ever sign up for. Do you find joy in your job?
For sure. I think, like you said, right, like we're all given different talents, and not just different talents, I think, but different passions as well. And I think it's such a rewarding thing if you're passionate about your job and you find purpose within your job. And I think for me, and it's difficult to think about, oh yeah, I'm going to be helping a large mining giant make more money. It's hard to find fulfillment in that if you really think about it. But the actual doing of it, you see how you are helping people. For example, one of the things that I do is safety analytics, right? Like I help analyze, incidents and injuries and why those things are happening, and give recommendations on how to stop injury frequency from going up, or certain incidents from happening again. I see some descriptions that are pretty disturbing sometimes. And I think it's those kinds of areas of my work where I'm like, okay, I am helping people out. There are these people that are out in the bush, in the sites that are being affected by what I do. And I think that's quite rewarding. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure you in your job with, prosecuting and defending and delivering justice, you'd find a lot of passion in that as well.
Yeah,
I think that's really
sure.
rewarding.
For sure. I do find a lot of joy in my job, even though most of the people I work with are very cynical and very negative, and they've been jaded by all the bad things.
It's fair, right? Because you're kind of surrounded by the hardest parts of humanity.
Of course.
All day.
And it really builds resilience working in industry such as mine. But every day I go to work and I've got a smile on my face because I find value and I find my job fulfilling. I can see the little tasks that I'm doing throughout the day are making a difference in the long term. And I know that I'm exactly where I need to be right now. And I'm going to be making the most of those moments. When I first started uni, I imagined what it would be like to be a lawyer, and what I'm doing right now is what I imagined. So I'm living out my answered
really
prayer.
cool.
So I'm going to live my life with gratitude, knowing that this is an answered prayer that I'm living in.
That's so cool. And I think it's important, right? Because the reason I think it's important is because all of us want to do whatever it is that God has for us, right? I think so often people use this word calling negatively in the sense of like, I feel called to do X, Y, Z. And it's kind of more like, I want to do this, so I'm just going to say I'm called to do it. But like, I think it gets so much like kind of Christianese, spiritual thing of like, I feel like most of the time you hear it is like, I just feel like called by God to like go into ministry, or I feel like called by God to go preach or whatever. And I think it's such a shallow definition of what calling is, because 100%, we need preachers and we need people to plant churches and we need all that 100%. But that is not actually most people. And I think what's beautiful is that God redeems the everyday work and actually says, no, you're not just analyzing data. You are physically helping people on a work site avoid injury. You're not just, going to court to close a case. You are executing justice on behalf of people that have been deeply wronged by a system. How do you maintain that vision front and center and not lose sight of it? Like, do you get lost in the grind sometimes?
100%.
Okay.
Because it's so easy, right? To where my mindset, at least, is okay. I've got this job.
Mm-hmm.
What's next? We're constantly living in the what's next. Well, okay, I'm going to work this, and then I'm going to become a senior prosecutor, and then I'm going to become a manager, and then maybe I'll become a barrister and become
so
like
a barrister
senior
is like
counsel.
a bigger dog?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you just like real quick, like, because prosecutor to me, I accidentally called someone a prosecutor and they're like, no, I'm not, I'm only a lawyer. So is that like, is it like levels? How does
It's
it?
like a hierarchy.
So your defense lawyers represent the defendant.
Okay.
And the prosecutor represents the state or the crown.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends. They're equal.
Okay. So they're equal in like lawyer status?
Yes.
But they're just doing different jobs.
Correct.
But then you go
then
up.
you go up to barrister. So you've got junior counsel and senior counsel.
Okay.
So your junior and senior are the ones that actually stand up in court. They're the ones you see on TV doing the trials.
Okay.
And
so that's not you.
No. So I become what's called an instructing solicitor, and I sit behind them. I've done all the work. They are just the voice.
They're presenting on your behalf.
Yep. They're the ones that are telling the jury a story. They're more believable than me. But I'm sitting behind them with my laptop, telling them the answers and telling them everything. So if the judge asks a question, I'm behind frantically finding the evidence and sending it to them through
So
Teams.
that's how they can immediately just answer, "Oh, Your Honor."
Oh, that is
objection.
so fascinating. Okay. And how many of you would there be for that one person that's actually representing? Just one, or is it like a team of you?
So
Are
it
you allowed to
depends
tell us
how
that?
big.
You're probably not allowed to tell
It
us
depends how big the case is.
Okay.
So we've got a pretty big case coming up. There's
Yeah.
going to be like 3 instructing solicitors.
Wow. Okay.
But it's an 8-week trial, so we'll be not there every day. We'll take turns.
I see.
So we'd probably need at least 2 people there every day, depending
okay.
on what's going on.
Did you always want to be a lawyer?
Yeah.
Okay. How old were you when you realized?
So I was 10
Okay.
and I watched Legally Blonde.
Okay.
And I thought, I don't like Pink, but I like Elle Woods.
Okay.
So I remember I told my parents. They're kind of like, all right. Then I went to school the next day and I told my year 5 teacher, and he laughed in my face and said, "You'll change your mind." And then determined me, made sure to prove him wrong.
Now, have you gone back and shown him your
haven't.
prosecutor badge?
I haven't,
Okay.
but I have stalked him on Facebook.
Oh,
so
okay.
the temptation is there to send him a sneaky message.
Just FYI, I'm a
lawyer.
I'm a lawyer. Well, I'm a prosecutor. What about you? Was data, like numbers, always been your thing?
Well, I liked math in school, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. Obviously, I don't know, the Asian stereotype is go to medicine or go into something health. So I was looking at that, but I didn't get the high enough ATAR for that. So kind of lost in uni. Knew I liked math and numbers, and so decided to do something data related. Luckily,
What was
for
your
me,
actual degree?
data science and
Data
finance.
science. Okay.
Yeah, so
and then you
Bachelor of
doubled
Science.
with finance.
Yep, doubled it. So I thought finance was a good, always good to understand how it works in the corporate world. So yeah, decided to do the double, and then got my job and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. And you're at a big 4, right? You don't have to say
Yep.
which one, but you're at a big 4.
Yep.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah. Which is pretty high pressure environment, right?
Yeah, can be. I think we deal with larger clients than some other firms.
Yeah.
So the pressure is there, obviously, to maintain our brand image.
Because if you're dealing with like $1 billion mining company,
and
then Mike drops the ball, that's not a good look, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So for both of you, you feel like you're living something out that's like fulfilling, joyful, kind of what you're wired to do. Kind of feels more like a calling rather than just like I'm going to the daily. How then do you have like boundaries around something that clearly brings you joy, but like if you just invested your whole life into it, would ultimately become destructive? What's that journey been like?
I think it's like I mean, you just asked us the question, right? Like, you just asked Michaela, did you always know you were going to be a lawyer? Did you always knew that God called you to be so and so? And I think there's a differentiation between the career that we're called to and who we're called to be.
Oh,
right?
That's good.
Very good.
I think all of us are called to be children of God. We're all made in God's image. And therefore, when, if someone were to ask me like, oh, how did you know God called you to be a data analyst or a data scientist? I would say I don't know it. If God calls me to another career, my mission of who I am and what my life is meant to be and what I'm going to do with my life doesn't change. My life doesn't revolve around, I've been put on this earth by God in order to analyze data. That's not what I've been put on earth for. Right?
Oh, come on.
I think if you have that mentality and you have that idea, then that's idolatry. You're idolizing your career. And if your career dies, your hopes and your passion and your heart dies along with it. But if you set your mind on things above, right? You know why you're put on earth, and your career, what you do day to day, is part of that and builds towards that. Then you go to work with a higher purpose, and you know more than anyone else why you're at work. I think it gives you more purpose than I don't know if that answers your question, but
100% it does. Got anything to add to that, Mac?
It was very good.
It was very good.
I agree. Your work isn't your identity, or what you do for your job isn't your identity. And I really found that out the hard way. Back when I was at uni, I got made redundant from my job that I really, really liked. And when they told us, it was the shock and the grief of losing my friendships, losing my identity in work, and then losing my source of income. And I really had to take a step back and think about, okay, who am I doing this for? And God opened so many more doors after that. And I realized I'd gotten so comfortable in just the day-to-day of the tasks of the job that weren't bringing me joy, that weren't challenging me, that weren't causing me to grow any more than I already was. And God needed to do something quite drastic to get me out of there, because I would never have left, never would have applied for any more jobs. And what I stepped into after did pave the way to where I am now. So I'm grateful for that in hindsight, but at the time, not so much. But that really helped me to see, your identity isn't in your job. We all could lose our jobs tomorrow, and life goes on. God doesn't stop moving just because you don't have your job anymore.
And I think it's an interesting thing in our 21st century Western world, right? Because kind of career is everything in our Western world, right? Because it's the first thing you meet anybody. Well, what do you do? Like,
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Oh, well, there's a bit more to me than what I do for 40 hours a week. Like there is actually, I'm a child of God. I've got a whole bunch of identities. The job that I'm currently employed to do is data analysis, or, I'm a prosecutor. But can we talk about that? Like you were saying there, it was the trifecta. So you talked about loss of friendship, loss of identity, and loss of income, which are, like, you kind of said it, like it's a bit of an idol, but those three things are like pretty important. If you have any thoughts, just like, I want to talk about that a bit more. I think that's cool.
What do you mean by that? Like,
because your job is a tool at the end of the day, right? Like, ultimately, you get good enough at something that someone will pay you to do it. That's really all a job is. But it does come with a bunch of other things because there is community attached to it.
Yep.
There is like a bit of identity attached to it, even if we like can be idealistic of like, oh, it's not really my identity, but it is a part of us.
Yeah, for sure.
And then of course there is like the real thing of like, well, I gotta eat, I gotta pay rent, I've got to put fuel in the car. How like, where does the line stop of like, I'm gonna engineer my life? It's almost like I don't need to trust God.
Mm.
Have you thought on this at all?
There's a really fine line, and I don't think I'm very good at navigating it.
Because you're more of a planner, right?
I am. I'm type A.
Yeah.
Through and through.
Yeah. Well, like
Yeah.
this is important for the context because what I messaged last night at like 5:30, I'm like, hey, I've changed some of the stuff for tomorrow. And you're like, well, cool, man, thanks. Like, I'm stacked, so I can't look at this. And I'm like, it's more of a conversation. And you're like, cool.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's true.
Okay. That's
Yeah, I'm not type
I'm
one.
not.
No.
It wasn't that passive aggressive. Cool.
Yeah, that's
I think So in my line of work, lack of preparation really shows.
Very good.
So we're drilled on preparation is key. If you're prepared, then things are going to come at you that you aren't expecting, but at least you're prepared for anything. And in law, you can never be prepared enough. You never know what a judge is going to ask you. And every single time I've been thrown a question that I wasn't expecting, and you've got to think on your feet. And I think I am pretty good at thinking on my feet as long as I've done the preparation. If I haven't come in prepared, I'm not going to do well.
Yeah.
So I think, that's how I function.
Yeah.
I like to be prepared.
Yeah.
And I think if you're super prepared, then when you ask something that you're not expecting, you usually can...
You've got like the
Answer.
foundation that you
Away.
can kind of pivot, right?
Exactly.
If
Yeah.
needed. But then how does that, like, do you feel like sometimes you will cling on to your job instead of like clinging on to God as kind of like moving you through? If we're being honest or vulnerable. Because I would cling to my job, I think, naturally more than I would cling to God. Like if I'm like, finance is a bit tight, I'm like, can I like fight for a promotion, or can I like, rather than being like, I just need to learn to trust God with this level of finance, or or maybe I'm feeling like a little bit like, no, I'm better than this. Like I can do a more important role rather than just being content with where I'm at. Would you guys like tend towards fighting for it yourself, or like just waiting passively?
I'm a fighter.
Oh, you're a fighter. Okay.
I'm a fighter.
I'm more passive, I think.
more passive.
I'm more like, okay, like with what I have, how do I trust God with it? And I know that if he deems me, I guess, prepared, or if he deems me mature enough or grown enough to be able to steward more responsibility, then he'd give it to me. And I trust that. It is difficult, though, to trust that and the timing of it, right? It's like, God, I want this. God, I want that. I want my career to go this way. I want to start doing this. I want to work for so-and-so. But when is it going to happen? Is it in your plan? Is it in the direction that you want me to go? But then that circles back to the first question that we talked about, right? It's like, okay, I do need to let go. But I see the value from your point of view as well.
And sorry, just to ask you a question. So in that situation, that seems like more of a everything's going well, but I'd like some things to change. And in that circumstance, I am quite a, God, if it's your will, let it happen. What happens if you got fired? You got an email this afternoon to say, don't come to work tomorrow. Are you a passive sit
Good
and wait for
question.
God, or are you a proactive, I need a job and I need it now? Because what you explained, it seems like you're comfortable, but you're just searching for more.
Yeah, correct. Yes, exactly. If I did get an email, but immediately on LinkedIn, immediately on messaging recruiters, hey, is there anything out there? But no, for sure. I think then that's where the desperation comes in, I guess. But how do you trust completely in God in those tough times. And like you said, the trifecta, right? You lose your friends, you lose your income, and what was it? You lose
It's a bit of your identity.
Identity. Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, I think that's really difficult. And to the people that have gone through that, I know, not personally, but I have heard of people from even my firm that have been let go. And yeah, I see them sharing on, you know, LinkedIn or wherever it may be, or word of mouth, that it is very, very difficult for them, especially the income side of things. Right?
Yeah, especially like, I mean, we're in a cost of living crisis. It's 2025, and it's like $5 for a bottle of milk, man. Like, it's crazy at the moment. So I want to talk about this, I've been thinking about it a lot. So, you know, there's the Jesus's parable he's talking. Oh, it's not even parable. I think he's just teaching, but he's like, you know, look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet, you know, the Father clothes them in splendor and glory. What I've been thinking about in that situation, right, is that everyone is like, yeah, just wait on the Lord. The Lord will clothe you. He'll provide everything for you. But at the same time, I also feel like the sparrows are in an ecosystem. They have been put in an environment where the food is available, but the sparrows still got to go out and eat the worm. You know what I mean? It's not like the sparrow's just chilling in the nest and then the Lord is like picking up the worm and putting it in its mouth. It's like it's still got to go out and find it. And I reckon this is the difficulty of that. 100% we trust in God. I'm not saying heresy here, but I think there is also a reality. He has put us on the world to kind of fight a little bit, right? Yeah. Is that okay? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think if you don't fight, and like you said in your situation, right? If you're just passive and you're like, oh yeah, I trust God, you know, things will fall in my lap. Things will go my way eventually. And you don't do anything about it, then you're not living out what God intends you to do. I think.
And I think it becomes more complex than that as well, right? Because like if we're going to call a spade, if we're Christians and we're following Jesus and we're slowly being formed in his way and his truth, and we have got a deeper revelation and understanding of what justice actually is, of what goodness actually is, of what, you know, self-sacrifice actually is. In some respects, we kind of need to fight for those leadership roles more because of the cultural impact that might have, right? Like if you have someone who is a boss who doesn't understand sacrificial leadership, that ends up like poisoning a work culture, right? So in some respects, we kind of have a responsibility to fight. Wondering if you guys have had experiences where you've had like a boss maybe that doesn't understand some of maybe the core parts of Jesus. What's that been like to work for? Like maybe someone that doesn't mind about dishonesty or, you know, doesn't really care for valuing human beings.
I've worked in a few workplaces like that, and it's really tough because it's easier for them to sway everyone else to do the bad thing than it is for you to have integrity and convince everyone to come over to your side, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. Not that it's like it's not a war, but like it is difficult, right? Because it is an integrity question.
It is, yeah. And it's not my job to get everyone on side. I feel like my job is to just be a light and be the best that I can in that environment. My managers have known about my faith, and I just pray that if they ever want to talk about it, I'm open and willing and able to. I feel like every time I pray that prayer, it's a really powerful prayer that God usually answers straight away.
It's a classic, right? Don't ask for something you don't actually want.
I know, don't pray for it. Don't ask. But every time I've done it, honestly, within 24 hours, someone's asked me. I feel like I fumble around and I stutter usually, but every time I'm like, sorry, God, I'll do a bit better next time. Don't give up on me yet. But yeah, you can't change people. It's not your job to change people.
Very good.
It's our job to just be a light and be Christ-like in our workplaces. And that sometimes doesn't yield any results. Maybe you never see anything, but that could be a seed that you've sown that 20 years down the line someone hears about. I don't remember who it was, but I was listening to a pastor, and maybe you guys have heard it before, where he felt called to go to his boss and invite him to church. And he goes into his office and he invites him. And the man says, no, I'm not coming to church. And then like 20 years later, a man comes up to this guy and says, because of you, me and my family started attending church. I was in the office that day cleaning the desk, and I was underneath the desk cleaning it. And
crazy.
That message was for that person. So
crazy.
Yeah, I love how God moves in really abstract ways sometimes.
Very good.
Yeah, I can't quote who that was, but
I think it was in Lee Strobel's book, In Case of Christ.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, I think maintaining your integrity and your personal integrity and your faith at work, I mean, I think even if you don't have, I'm lucky enough that my boss is Christian, and I'm able to openly talk about my faith with him and approach our work in a way. We don't obviously talk about it all the time, but when we do catch up, sometimes we, talk a little bit about God. But within my own work and my projects, whenever I am given that opportunity to lead or to have some form of leadership over, a junior or a grad or something, being that leader that Jesus calls me to be and maintaining that integrity, I think, even though it's not directly evangelizing or talking about Jesus, I think it's a representation that we maintain and a look that we maintain at work that, who knows, like you said, like a year, 2 years, 5 years down the line, it's like, oh yeah, why was he so, I guess, firm in his integrity and not to, take that data out of context or to move data from one place that it, was and move it to a place it shouldn't. Why did he say that? Questions need to be raised, and Jesus calls us to be different from the world, right? We're supposed to look different. And I think even in those situations where you might have a boss that wants to fracture integrity and moral standard, that is your opportunity to be like Jesus, because Jesus has faced, the most lack of integrity. Yeah. And he was the one that stood in the face of it and said, no, like I'm going to stand by my Father's way and what my Father says, right?
So good. And I guess it's very hard, especially I think in your guys' industry, right? Where like you're kind of in a culture that's like, no, I'm going to get it. Like I'm going to change the world by 30 and whatever it takes to get there, I'll do it. Is it hard to kind of walk that tightrope of like not turning into like Harvey Spencer, like when you roll into work on Monday and then like putting the church clothes back on Friday afternoon? Like, is that difficult, or is it like what? Because surely right now you're 30, you're a bit more on in your career, but like 22, you're like fresh out of uni, little baby Michaela. Like, what was that journey like? Was it hard?
Yeah, it was. Also, so even at 30 years old now, I don't feel like I can take on the world. I feel really under-equipped pretty much every day. Like most days I feel like I have to fake it till I make it.
Yeah, wow.
But it is that balancing act of, okay, we need to pursue excellence, but excellence doesn't mean perfection. And what's our excellence? Who are we using as our role model for excellence?
Very good.
In the world we live in, excellence is defined by how many, what your bank balance is, or how many holidays you've been on, or how fast you climb up that corporate ladder. Jesus defines excellence in a very different way, and that should be our yardstick. But it is really hard, and I will be honest, I don't always follow Jesus's example of excellence, because it's always the what's next. How can I get that promotion? How can I get that bonus? How can I make more money? I don't really have anything to add.
I think that's why it's so hard though, right? Because we forget sometimes that we're in this, we're being formed by culture, that we've been fed a script since before we could even talk, that basically is the same script in all of Western culture, which is like, hey, go to school, get good grades, or be good at sport. You better get into a good high school. Maybe mummy and daddy can pay for private, or you better get into a good public school. And then you better crush it in ATAR or get into an early apprenticeship. And by the time you are 18 years old, you should have a career plan mapped out. You should have go straight through uni, get great grades, walk straight into the grad program of your choice. Then crush it at level 1 and smash it out. Get promoted within 2 years. You better be like looking at maybe going to a different workplace in year 3 or fighting for the senior position.
Yep.
And then it's like, hey, by the time you're 30, you should be having like a spouse. You should have this type of house. You should be looking at this type of car. By the time you're 45, your kids should be in the same position you were, if not at a better school. And it's kind of like this winner's script of like, you have got the God-given right to be the GOAT of your generation. And yet then you look at the life of Jesus and it's like no one knew who he was till he was 30. Then he chooses a bunch of rejects, like teenage rejects, and is like, I'm going to invest my life in you, and then I'm going to die for a bunch of people that hate me. And I think this is what's so hard for us as Christians, is that like we try to emulate Jesus and it's like, man, I can't even sacrifice like my desire for a promotion. How am I going to sacrifice my life for something?
Yeah, we fall so short. And the human approach to excellence that you described, it's exhausting because you're just constantly trying to achieve with no end. It will never end. There's always something more. And Jesus offers this alternative, but we're just so consumed by culture that it's hard to really embrace that fully. I struggle.
Big time.
Yeah, I think that there's been a formula created and it changes through time, but throughout history there has been a winning formula that you just described a part of, but at the end of the day it's always to reach that retirement and have a retirement, like you were saying, like you're looking at your superannuation, you know, like we're all working, it seems, towards this fantastical idea of a nice retirement. We live out the rest of our lives in a nice holiday home, and we die. And I think the way Jesus subverts that is he didn't live till 60. He didn't enjoy a nice retirement. He lived his life for a divine purpose, and he had a kingdom mindset. He knew that he had eternal life, and the people that followed him knew they had eternal life. So they didn't devote their lives to the formula of success of their time, whatever that might have been. And this changed throughout history, right? In the 1900s is different. In the 1800s is different. Before that, it was different. Nowadays, it's what you described. And honestly, I find it difficult. I'm sure you find it difficult as well, not to conform to that idea of excellence and winning, right? Like you're always chasing that next promotion. Every single time you're talking to seniors at work, it's like, oh, when do you think you're going to get promoted? Oh, it's like, talking to people older, it's like, oh, when are you going to buy a house? When's the next investment property, right? It's like, there's a formula that is expected out of people. And I think that's honestly why anxiety is so high and why there's so many mental illnesses going around. Is there's this pressure from society to win and for everyone to win. And what Jesus, like you said, offers is a way actually for everyone to win, not just for the people that do the best, not just for the people that are the smartest, not just for the people that are the most, the go-getters at work and the loudest in the room. It's a way for everyone to win, and he offers that. And I think it's still very difficult for me, and I haven't found, obviously, the best way to do it, to pull myself out of that mindset and put myself in the kingdom mindset every day. So it's difficult.
Definitely.
And just social media is toxic.
Yep.
It's brutal, hey?
Because turn on or load up your Instagram, and it's just comparison after comparison of people's the best parts, their highlight reel of their life, and you compare yourself. In the workplace, you've got LinkedIn. You load up LinkedIn, and it's just people getting promotions, getting new jobs, getting all these new opportunities.
No one's sharing on their like got fired for like cheating on a presentation. Like no one's putting that up there. Are
Even,
they?
even if they did get fired, they were talking about how they bounced back from their.
Yes, it's yeah.
You know, it's
Or-
all wins. It's always
Yes,
wins.
It's wins. It's we live in a society where excellence is based on our selfishness, what we can get out of it, whereas Jesus's excellence was based on selflessness and how I can serve other people.
Yes.
Very good.
And we, as a society, fall so short because our idea of excellence is how can I make myself bigger at the expense of everyone else usually.
Yeah.
And I think that's really dangerous. And it's a really hard balancing act, especially in secular workplaces where you are surrounded by people who will throw you under the bus at the click of a finger if it means that they will get that promotion or they will rise up and you will go down.
It's interesting. I know this is a very strange connection, but I'm immediately thinking of I don't know if you guys are Harry Potter fans. I know you are. I can't remember if you've read it or not. But like, there's
Gryffindor.
I'm
a Gryffindor.
You've done it. Okay, you're really deep down. Okay, but there's like I can't remember if it's book 6 or book 7, but there's like a description of a statue that they built in the Ministry of Magic, and it's like the wizards are standing basically on the bodies of the non-wizarding people. And I can't help but think sometimes that is like a picture sometimes of our modern corporate workplace, not even corporate, just workplace in general, of like, I will stand and look beautiful and majestic and I will not think about everyone else that sacrificed or that I even sacrificed to get me to where I'm at. Like the reason I bring that up is because we're talking about like values and carrying Jesus into the workplace. How practically do you live out like a selflessness in that in a workplace that really is like, no, I'm going to get it?
I'm quite fortunate working for government in that so salaries are all fair.
Okay.
And there's no such thing as, oh, I'm going to give you a promotion or a bonus today. You've got to go through the correct processes. So I'm quite fortunate to work in a workplace where if I want a promotion, I have to apply for it along with everyone else and go through the interview process. There's no favoritism like there is in private sector.
It's a bit more of like a rigorous process,
it is,
I guess.
Yes. And I guess I've got friends who work in private law firms and it's cutthroat. They will stab each other in the back to get what they want, but then be nice to you the next morning and pretend nothing's happened. And I experienced that at uni. We used to have the way law school's graded is there's the bell curve and only 20% of the cohort could get a HD. 10% could get a distinction and everyone else had to get a credit or lower.
Yeah, right.
So you'd ask people for help or you'd say, oh, let's work together on our assignment. And they'd purposely give you the wrong answer so that they got a higher grade than you.
Because they're trying to get on top
Because they're trying to get on top. And you'd know because I'd get my grades and I'd get 69%, which is essentially, I wanted to give you a 70, but there was too many people in the 70s. But that... it's nice not working in an environment like that. So I have a very collaborative workplace where we work really well together. And I think that contributes to why I find work fulfilling and it gives me joy. I think I'd be too stressed if I was having to try and compete constantly with my work colleagues who I'm also trying to build relationships with and trying to invest in. Yeah. Like it's hard to be a light and invest and show Christ's love to them when they're constantly throwing you under the bus.
And you can then accidentally also get taken advantage of, right? Because it's like, yeah, Michaela, she doesn't fight back on anything. It's like, just send her heaps of crap.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is it different in your world?
I think...
Not that you want to incriminate anyone.
No, I'm not. But I think, obviously, I work in private and I have heard stories of that, of people stabbing each other in the back in order to get that promotion or to make themselves look better to the partners for, because we have talent reviews, right? And the way it works is, all the managers plus enter a room, talk about the analysts, and then the managers leave, the directors and the partners talk about the managers, and so on and so forth. And I have heard stories of, the backstabbing, but I think I'm fortunate enough where in my team there's a culture of, let's work together, right? Everyone needs to be given a fair go at getting a promotion. If you really are outstanding, then you will be looked at and be considered. But that message is communicated very clearly. And there's no kind of favoritism that, at least as far as I can see, I don't know if I'm like out of the loop, but I think I'm also quite fortunate that my cohort was quite small when I started, so I don't really have anyone to compare myself to. But
Competition.
No, not that there isn't competition, but there's not really like I'm chasing or racing against someone else to get to that next level, so to speak. But I've definitely had the temptation to feel like, I do deserve to be promoted earlier than this person. I think I am better than this person, so and so. And I have definitely been tempted to feel that way, and I need to kind of stop myself and be like, no, you know what? I'm not working for a promotion. I'm working for God, right? And as long as I am getting fulfillment from this job and it's able to fulfill my needs, my goals, and whether it's financially or for my development personally in my career, then that's where God wants me to be. And I don't think he would want me to, go after something that I might not even be prepared for myself, right? For the next role and that next position. But definitely that temptation is there, especially in private, to compare with someone else performance-wise and be like, yeah, I deserve it better. Yeah.
I am the goat of my generation.
Yeah. I mean, you hear the success stories obviously on LinkedIn and whatnot, people my age, younger than me, Forbes 30, under 30, that's like, how do I get there? That's what's on everyone's minds, right?
So. 100%. And I think the worst part is it doesn't go away. I think you think you'll get to a point where you're like, oh, I'm not tempted by that anymore. You're like, oh no, still there. It's still like, no, I should be better. I should be further along. Can we talk quickly just to turn the ship slightly? You guys are interesting because you've been at one firm basically your whole time.
Yep.
You've moved around a bit more. I love I think it's Colossians. It's like, whatever you do, work at it as though you were working for the Lord, not for human masters. It's just interested. Did you like quit and then find other jobs, or did it kind of just happen? Like, did the doors just open?
So I kind of got poached.
Okay. So I told you she's a bit of a big dog. That's what I said.
No,
look, I don't want to brag,
no.
but like I kind of got headhunted. This recruiter messaged me and just said, "Wow, you're amazing."
Awesome. No. So I used to. So at the ATO, we work really. They work really closely with the place that I now work at.
Okay.
So I was already in communication with them. I knew a few people who worked there. They asked for my resume. I gave it to them. The manager at my now place contacted me and asked me, do you want to have an informal interview? And that's how I got the job. So I didn't have to wait for a recruitment or anything.
Yeah.
But it worked out a bit hard because my manager at the ATO said I wasn't allowed to leave. So there was a lot of conflict for about 6 months of backwards and forwards. You can't leave. You have to stay. Some nasty comments about not being capable enough to handle the job. And
interesting. Yeah. Okay, this is fascinating to me. Is this because they're both government agencies?
Yes.
Yes. That is fascinating.
So I got transferred. I technically didn't start a new job. So all my leave and long service and everything went with me.
But that is also very interesting. Sorry, not to like call you out, but you kind of sound like there's no favoritism or anything like that. But you kind of get an informal interview that's like, hey, you're pretty good.
Now
Do you
I'm realizing
maybe there's a little bit of favoritism.
She is a big dog.
She is a big dog, right? Wow. Okay. How did you navigate that? That is because that's big workplace conflict, right? How do you navigate that as like, you all know I'm Christian, you all know that I'm like trying to follow Jesus, and now I'm clearly being wronged. Like, because you didn't, it's not like you called up your current agency being like, hey, give me an interview.
Yeah.
And yet you were kind of being punished and like dragged through the mud. How do you navigate that?
That was a hard one. I was happy at the ATO. I wasn't miserable or anything.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it. I remember you
Yeah.
being like, love your job, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've loved every job that I've been in, which I'm very fortunate about. But
Very lucky.
that one was I did have multiple days where I would just cry while I was sitting with Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm like, you opened this door for me
Yeah.
and I got this job that I didn't even apply for.
Yeah.
And I really believe that's where you want me to be. But why this opposition all of a sudden? Why is it was so easy and now it's so hard? And my character is kind of getting dragged through the mud by my current manager. I have to keep going to work and see this lady.
Yeah, that's hard, eh?
After she's said that I'd be awful at the job and I have to stay. What's the purpose in this? But, I mean, it turned out I ended up getting in, but it really...
But I guess it revealed a bunch of stuff in you that you wouldn't have known that was in you, possibly, right?
It definitely built character.
Yeah.
And I was put into a position where I did need to trust God, and I did trust him with it. I was able to get to a place of surrender where I'm like, okay, well, here it is.
Yeah.
I've done as much as I can do.
Yeah.
I know I'm capable. I know I'm qualified enough for the job because they offered it to me.
Yeah.
I can't do anything more now. It's in your hands.
How funny is that though, right? Where you like very clearly see the door is open and you're like, oh, that sounds great. And you're like, oh, we could have just got there a bit of a nicer way, Lord. Like this was a bit of a rougher path than I was anticipating.
But maybe in saying that though, I think I appreciated the job more when I got it.
Oh, very good.
Than if it was just handed to me like it originally had been.
Yeah.
I definitely would have seen God's faithfulness and goodness either way.
Yeah.
But I was able to really appreciate the job. And I think that's the same with, I know this is going a bit off topic, but when God makes you wait for anything, the longer you have to wait, the more you're going to appreciate it. And that's why God doesn't just hand everything to you on a silver platter. He makes you wait, not because he's an awful God, but because he cares for you so much that he wants you to, be prepared for what you're about to receive, which sometimes takes a lot of character development, but also he knows that if we were just handed it on a silver platter, we wouldn't steward it as well as if we had to wait for it, I think, and I find.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Some great nuggets in there. Very different story for you though, right? Because you kind of just been in the same place. Did you do your like, what do they call it, vac work, or like, did you do it at the same place?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough. It was even since from first year of university, I did program there, and then I did vac work in the second year, and then got called back to do casual work in my third year before graduating and then doing the graduate program, and now I'm progressed through the ranks.
So obviously also a big dog though, right? Because they don't get you back unless you're like good.
Hope so.
Hope so. I'm just having a very random thought here. Two things we can talk about in whatever order. The first one, very practical. Your jobs come with perks. How do you not take advantage of them? And like, because I reckon, I'll just say as honestly as I can, when I was in my early 20s, Kira and I first got married, I was working for a company that was amazing. Absolutely loved it. And they offered me a trip to Japan to like go to like an expo. I'm like, of course, I'm 100% doing this. And it was like a very weird experience for me because I went with someone who was much more senior than me. And I'd never been on a work trip before. And he just like put everything on the company card. And I'm like 22 years old. And I'm like, is this real? Like people live in a world where they get flown around the world and then the company just pays for all your meals and whatever. And I remember in that moment being like, that to me is such a vice. Like if I stay in this environment, I will 100% not have integrity because it's like, oh, I'm going out for a meal. What's the difference between a $20 meal and a $40 meal? Or what's the difference between a $40 meal and an $80 meal? Like just wondering how you guys have navigated that. Because I think there are perks attached to both of your jobs. Like, I mean, you've both, great example, you both come straight from work. Michael Tan is in a Uniqlo Airism.
Most casual outfit ever.
and you are dressed to the nines. Can we talk about the practicality of perks? And then the second one, this is also an interesting thought, is the idea that Jesus actually had a job. Like he was a carpenter, worked a normal job for like 30 years. I want to talk about that too, but come on, perks. Let's talk about it.
I mean, yeah, we got perks. We got they call it like a reward or like benefits, I guess, right? So we get discounts and cashbacks and stuff like that. But if you're talking about like credit card expenses, I think being in a consultancy, we get quite watched.
Okay. So
this is what we can spend it on clients, right? If we're taking a client out for coffee, then we use the company card.
Okay.
But whenever we do,
but it's like you can't say you can't take a client to Bali, like that's
no.
Maybe wouldn't that be nice?
Maybe in the higher, I haven't experienced that.
Okay, but maybe the top dogs can.
The top dogs can.
Yeah,
I'm not that big.
Yeah, you're a senior, but you're not like a senior.
No. I'm a senior junior.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah.
A partner, yeah, sure. Yeah. They could probably fly and put it on the company and then just like, I'm traveling for work. But yeah. I don't know.
With the government, 0 perks.
True.
Because
it's probably a good thing.
If we got perks, it would be from your taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
So
true.
No, our break room, we have to pay for the snacks. We have like a snack store and
that's a bit
we have to
harsh.
pay for the snacks.
Yeah, okay.
The best perks I got was I did have to fly to Darwin quite a lot for work back at my old job. So I would get a hotel and a meal allowance.
Are you allowed to use your frequent flyer for that?
Yes.
Okay, so you can get the points as well.
I did climb up the status credits
pretty quick.
Yeah, I got to silver.
Ooh.
Not gold, but I got to silver.
Yeah.
Got a free business lounge entry, which wasn't that great.
Okay.
Bit overrated.
Though, right?
Bit overrated. The Perth domestic
Qantas lounge. Yeah.
But yeah, the biggest perk I got was they gave us a cab charge card, which lets you pay for taxis.
Ooh.
Right? Great. It sounds great. Until you have to have an argument with every single taxi driver because they don't want to accept the card.
Oh.
So you get in and you're like, I'm paying by cab charge card. Yes, get in. And then you arrive at your destination and the cab charge machine's broken. Can you just pay with your normal card? No.
Okay.
Restart the machine.
Restart it. Give it another
I've worked
go,
at
bud.
Apple. Restart the machine. So no perks for me.
Yeah. And honestly, that's probably ethically right? Because like you're saying, it is taxpayer dollars, so it is kind of a bit. Are there? But like, would you have a break room that there's like snacks on?
Yeah, we get wheat bix.
Wow,
baby.
splurging.
We do get a nice kitchen. Sometimes they do bring in, like I think there was one time they were doing on Wednesdays, every Wednesday, like cupcakes or hot cross buns or something like that for us, which is quite nice. But nothing crazy. Yeah. But I have heard of my friends or people that I know that, they're in the interview process for a new job and it's like, you get a company car or you get a fuel card or something like that. And it's like, at what point do you argue or you negotiate for more perks or more bonuses when you sign for a new job? That it becomes greed, right?
Yeah,
and it becomes like, how much can I get out of this company?
And you like trick yourself, right? You're like, I'm going to be generous with it. It's like, no, you want the free stuff.
Yeah, you want the free stuff.
Yeah,
it's like, can I get a better car or can I get can I use my fuel card for non-company expenses? It becomes that kind of.
It can very quickly get into a grey area.
It can. Yes,
well, you trick yourself into a grey area. It's very clearly black and white, and you're very clearly in the black, but you try to pretend.
You try to pretend, but then it's like, okay, the idea is you should be grateful for even getting it, right? I don't want to say you shouldn't get it at all, but I think you do deserve it, and what you get you're grateful for, but don't push it too much.
Yeah. And I think the key is the gratitude, right? Because if you become normalized and you become like a little bit complacent of like, that's my entitlement, that's when I think it gets a bit dangerous, right? Like I was talking to someone recently who said they've been really needing, it was something minor. It was like a subscription to like ChatGPT or something. It was like $20 a month.
Right.
But when the company offered like, oh, if you want that, we'll pay for it. It was like, oh my gosh, really? And like that gratitude that came out was like, oh, what an amazing thing. Thank you so much. I think that's the correct attitude, right? When it's like, I'm a bit miffed because they put me in 31D and I really wanted to be in 1A. Like that's probably unhealthy, right? Yeah.
For sure.
All right, couple of misconceptions. We already talked about them all. Lame. I want to talk about misconception though because I think that Louis, you guys know obviously I was part of Passion for a while. You love Passion.
I do.
I don't know what your thoughts are on Passion, but we love Passion. So if you don't love Passion,
Get out.
it's
Oh, I don't know.
But
Passion-
Louis used to do this series called Passion and Purpose, and he'd do it every couple of years
I've been listening to it today.
because it's on right now,
Yes, it is.
Who's Louis? The
Louis
pastor.
Giglio.
right? Louis Giglio, senior pastor of Passion City
Okay,
Church,
cool,
and
yeah.
like Passion conferences. But he always talks about like in Passion and Purpose, this idea of like whatever the heck it is you're gonna do, just do it to the absolute best of your ability. And you don't have to make it about evangelism, right? Like you don't have to like you're going to be a hairdresser because you love cutting hair. Go for your life. You don't have to call it heavenly haircuts. Like you can just be the best hairdresser ever. Love your clients well, blah, 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 blah. Wondering what like your guys' experience has been of that, of like how do you kind of carry like that idea of like God wants to redeem my everyday work and do something through my life, through the day-to-day. I know we've kind of talked about vision and stuff like that, but just wondering what that has looked like and felt like practically.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're talking about excellence in
Is
the
it? I don't
workplace-
know. Is it excellence though? Like, do you even agree with the statement? I guess let's start there. Do you agree with the statement?
that Louis said.
Yeah, I paraphrased big time there. Okay, but it's basically like, should you, Michael Tan, as a follower of Jesus,
Yeah.
should you be the best senior data analyst at your firm?
Yes, I agree. I think, I mean, excellence is one of the culture points even in the rocks, right? And I firmly believe personally that excellence is important, whether you're a Christian or not, but even more so when you're a Christian, because if you're not trying your best in what you've been given to do, like you said, Colossians, right? Like work hard at whatever you do as if you're working for God and not your human masters. If you are working for God and God has given you this thing to do and you're not going to do it to the best of your ability, then you're squandering the opportunity that God's given you.
Very good.
And you're not honoring the opportunity. You're not honoring Him. So if you're going to do something half-heartedly, then you might as well not do it at all. And I think that's my personal philosophy. But if you try your best at something and you do your best at something and it doesn't work out, I think God honors that. I don't think I don't think excellence equates great results all the time. I think excellence equates trying your best at being excellent.
Very good. It's like a heart posture, right?
It is a heart posture. I think if you know, at the same time, someone that doesn't try their hardest and ends up getting good results all the time, I think they'll be found out quite quickly, their heart posture, even though they might have a great track record, right? Yeah. What do you think?
I don't think I disagree.
Oh, okay. You're allowed to disagree.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think God wants to put the pressure on me to be the best prosecutor in all of Australia or even in my office. I think all God asks is that I strive or try to do my best and aim for excellence, not necessarily have to be excellent all the time and the best. Because that's a pressure that is just going to weigh you down and it's going to be exhausting, and there's always going to be people who are overtaking you, and then you've got to work a bit harder, and it's you risk falling into that constant comparison trap of comparing yourself to everyone else to make sure you're the best. But yeah, just aiming to be the best that I can be with the skills and the gifts and the talents that God has given me, and I don't take them for granted. I know that I have been blessed with certain skills and gifts and talents that some other people don't have, and I feel like I'm stewarding them well in the workplace that I'm in at the moment. But yeah.
But I think that is the key though, right? Is that like sometimes I think we feel in the Christian tradition of like, oh, I don't want to be prideful. So I'm not going to actually say, no, you know what? I am. At the end of the day, not everyone can be a prosecutor because you don't actually have the mental aptitude. You don't have the memory. You don't have the ability to like think on your feet, all that stuff, right? At the end of the day, you have been gifted in ways that other people have not. And if you were not to try your best to be a prosecutor, if you were to just have wasted that and gone, you know what? I could be a lawyer, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to do whatever. You actually lose out on what God has built you to do that no one else can do, right? It's like the classic parable from Jesus of like giving them talents. You know, he's like, I'm giving you 10, I'm giving you 5, I'm giving you 1. You still got to, you may only get 1, and that's okay, but you better freaking put that thing to work. Like, don't waste your life. Like, at the end of the day, this is a very fresh thought for me. It's actually only just come up the other day, but like the concept of being blessed, right? How would you guys define blessed? Have you ever defined it?
It's contentment for me.
Okay. So you know what this I find, because I would have defined it that way as well. Do you know how blessed is actually defined from a theological perspective? It is defined as rich and full happiness. Now this is interesting to me. One of the core characteristics of who God is that he is blessed. Now, how is God blessed? Not a trick question.
Oh, it's not a hypothetical question with more to come.
There is going to be more to come, but how is God blessed?
I think by seeing his children using what he's given them.
Do you not find this mind-bending that God is blessed by us being who he made us to be? That he finds delight in us discovering how he's wired us, how he's made us, and then we go and live that out. He goes, that fills me with a rich and full happiness. That we can actually delight the God of heaven who is completely already content and blessed and amazing.
Everything,
He goes, oh, wow, Michaela is using the brain that I gave her. Gosh, that fills me with rich and full happiness. Isn't that crazy to think about?
Yeah, it's like and like you said in the parable of the talents, well done, good and faithful servant. And that's what we're all working towards as Christians, is to hear that at the end of our lives, is well done, good and faithful servant, right? And like you said, whether we're given 1, we're given 5, or we're given 10, we are given something to steward.
Yep.
And at the end of our lives, God will, keep us to account. What have you done with your life? How have you glorified me and not glorified yourself, right? And I think and I don't know if I'm misquoting this, the parable itself, but the person that, didn't do anything with the money that was given to them, that was the one that the man went, what have you done? Why didn't you do anything? But the other two, that one didn't return as much as the other one, still got given that praise. Well done, good and faithful servant, right? It's the fact that he tried, that he used what he did.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the same amount of excellence that the first person did, but he did use his talents. He did use it for his master's will and his master's good. That is why he was given that praise, the delight, right? And yeah, I think that's powerful, right? It's what you were saying. You don't need to be completely excellent all the time, as long as you do use your talents the way that God intended you to. Well done, good and faithful servant.
Yeah.
And I think I just want to make a point of saying that sometimes it's a given, we make mistakes, and maybe you've made a few mistakes along your life and you feel like maybe you're not where God really wanted you in a workplace or anything. Like I know, Mike, you're in a really good role. I really like my job. But maybe along the way, someone's made a mistake. I don't think that, or I know that God hasn't disqualified that person. And there's redemptive power in God's grace, and you can use the wherever you are at the moment, God can use you in that, and you can excel and be excellent, whether you're a volunteer at the soup kitchen or the CEO of Qantas. I think our society places more value on people who have positions of more authority. But God sees work as work. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's you're a stay-at-home mum or the CEO. God places the same amount of value on both roles.
A very practical example of this, I'm just remembering this story of a bus driver in New York who drove the same bus route for like 13 years, knew all of his passengers by name, knew their lives, knew their stories. Like when he died, everyone went to his funeral. He was a pastor of a local church and he felt like he was responsible for his community. And so he drove this bus route. And like most people go, oh, bus driver, that's not a CEO, that's not a CFO, you're not changing the world. But he changed the lives of people, which is so much more rewarding than a better paycheck or a bit more status or the, like you said, the actually kind of disappointing frequent flyer lounge.
Yeah.
You know, like I think sometimes we think so often in human perspective of what is rewarding when ultimately what's most rewarding is.
I know for me, my day is always so much better when I've had a nice bus driver in the morning. Like they just lighten up your whole day when they say good morning to you or like thank you when you get off the bus. And it's those little things and how interesting that those people are usually so much more happier than the people who are making the six, 7-figure salaries.
But even the impact of it, right? So like let's take that as a great example of like, so that bus driver smiles at you in the morning and says, hey, have a great day. You now walk into your office with a different outlook, which actually changes the climate of your office and the work that you do that day. And like, do you know what I mean? It's the flow-on effect of those small jobs that often many of us overlook that is actually like that thing is so vital because God redeems all things and he can use all things for the joy of all people and his own glory. So beautiful. Any other thoughts you guys want to share? This whole thing?
I mean, one topic that we haven't really touched on is we can be excellent in our workplace. We can be, we can have integrity in our workplace in order to, I guess, represent Jesus well, evangelizing in the workplace and spreading the gospel in a sense. I think is, for me at least, one of the most difficult things, especially to, I'm other than my boss, I think I'm the only Christian in my entire team. And to try and...
Me too.
Yeah. Really?
It's interesting. Let's elaborate on that a bit more.
Let's unpack that. No, but like, I think it's just so difficult to introduce the concept in a way that is smooth and isn't, like, oh, you're a sinner. This is how you get into heaven. Like that's the way that most people think, right? And it's hard. And I know the way to do it is relationally, right? You need to appeal to people's emotions and you need to see how Jesus cares for them in their own way. It's just really hard for me in my workplace. I'm interested to hear how you do it and how in your previous life you did it to evangelize in a sense.
I find it really hard as well. Especially lawyers. They're already very negative. Everyone, the world sucks kind of mentality. I don't like talking about it openly. I always ask God that if someone wants to know, they'll ask me to like talk about it unless I feel really prompted to bring it up. Because I don't want to come across as evangelizing and attacking them.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do try and show it through my actions. So one person that I work with in my team, she will get to work every day and she'll ask everyone, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? And then a few weeks ago, I noticed she never asks me if I'm okay. And a few weeks ago, she was like, just by the way, I never ask you if you're okay because you're always happy and smiling and like upbeat. So you seem okay. And that started a conversation. So my optimism and my attitude at work is a reflection of Christ. I don't need to be negative and sad and complain and grumble about everything. But it's a really fine line because I don't want to be that person. I think Christians in workplaces who are very attacky with their approach to evangelizing and or you're a sinner, I think it has an opposite effect.
100%.
No one wants to listen. No one's really open. And
I reckon it's an interesting one. So for context, before I was a pastor, I was a high school teacher. And before I was a high school teacher, I did like video production and brand management. So I'll talk in two stages because I think my experience is different to both of yours. So when I was in the video production kind of role, you guys know me, right? I'm pretty direct. So I just tell people, what are you doing with your life? Like, what's your purpose? What's the meaning of life? Why are you here? And I would just ask it as directly as I could because most people have got, like, they'll have an answer and you go, well, why is that? And then, and then there'll be some kind of fumbling. And you go, well, why is that? And then completely undone. It's like, actually, you have no idea who you are or what you're doing with your life. It's like, well, I've got a pretty good idea. So let me tell you. But that's kind of also how I'm wired. So
yeah, unfortunately, that wouldn't work for lawyers. They'd have a reason for everything.
Yeah. But I would be interested to know. The reason I bring that up is because someone once told me is like 3 whys is all it takes to undo most people. I reckon that's a great thing because it's not aggressive. It is actually just, well, why is that? Why do you believe that?
Yeah, just question.
Yeah. And I think most people are wanting to ask the deeper questions of life. They just, I think it's why we haven't done Alpha here in a while, but I think it's why Alpha is so successful because it asks these deeper meaning questions of like, well, actually, why are we here? Is this all there is? You clock in, you clock out, and sure, you're committing to a bigger picture or whatever, but what, you're going to go home, you're going to cook a meal, you're going to do that for 70 years, and that's all there is, and maybe there's some relationships on the way. Surely there's more to it than that. I think it's great. What I found interesting was when I became a high school teacher, you then have a power differential because you are now the adult authority figure. And so you ask a teenager the same question and it's like, number one, they actually have no idea because they're a teenager. And then they're like, oh, what do you think? And you're like, well, here's the answer. And they're like, oh, amazing. Which is actually a little bit dangerous because you can actually be manipulative and coercive in an inadvertent way. What I found much harder, so when I first became a teacher, I was at a pretty elite school. So all the teachers there were pretty elite as well. And I reckon it's the same kind of environment that you guys would be in where it's like, no, I've got a pretty good idea of why I'm here and what I'm supposed to be doing, which I actually found much harder, interestingly. But I still think it's that same question of like, yeah, but why? Like you might have this idea, but why? Where does it come from? What story are you telling yourself or where did you first hear the story? But again, I'm not even sure. I think 100% all of us are. As we go, we're making disciples. We're seeing the kingdom come. I think that evangelism is a difficult thing in the workplace. I don't think there's a silver bullet for it. Yeah. But I think it comes down to, do I know God? Do I trust him? Like you've said, I'm going to pray for it. And sure enough, I'll pray for it. God will put the person in front of me. Do I actually know myself? Do I know the way that I'm wired and how I can have this conversation? And do I know my ultimate purpose, which ultimately is to bring glory to God through my everyday, to make him known and to know him. Yep. And then I think he just kind of works out the rest for you. Yeah. But you got to be willing, right? You got to be willing to partake.
Mm-hmm. I think Jesus was quite relational.
Very.
He wasn't a preach it to your face.
Yeah. I mean, he did do that, but I think, again, you got to know your own thing, right? I'm happy to preach it to your face because that's the way I'm wired. It's the way I've been gifted. So I'm going to do that. Not everyone is. And so that's not a great example for everybody to follow. Yeah. Any other thoughts? We're very over time.
Yeah.
Very over time.
Oops.
Great conversation, though. I've had a great time.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you had a good time, Michaela? You're just a bit quiet.
Yeah. Did you have as good a time as everyone else's podcasts?
All of my podcasts have been equally enjoyable.
Oh, very
corporate answer.
Yeah,
very
corporate, diplomatic.
Yeah.
Very
Switzerland.
All animals are evil. What equal? But some animals are more equal than others. Are
we the more equal ones?
Oh, who knows, mate? We'll find out on the ratings.
Ooh, there's ratings.
I don't know. I got no idea what I'm doing, mate. I literally
you get all your friends and I'll get my friends and we'll rate only ours.
This whole podcast was like, this thing's so blown out of proportion. I'm like, I want to have some conversations with some people. We'll just record audio. And then PD and Pass, they're like, no, you got to do video. I'm like, okay, fine, we'll do video.
It's going on YouTube.
Yeah, it's going on YouTube. That's why I said we're stuff that's going to be memorialized on the internet forever. But then, like, so the whole thing now is so bigger than Ben Hur. I'm like, I just wanted to have a chat about some conversations.
But yeah, about life.
About
as
life.
friends.
And I just wanted to
We
record
got
them.
mugs now.
In progress.
Yeah, that's cool.
They
gotta
are
keep
good.
Very cool.
Yeah, those are yours to keep. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Really?
Thanks for coming on the show. All right, that's the end
So
of the
I get
episode.
two.
We are very over time. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you made it to the end because there was some good stuff at the end. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.